Good afternoon and welcome to today's Policy and Resources Committee. Can I ask if we've got any apologies or substitutions?
Yes, Convener, we have an apology from Councillor Fairweather, also an apology from Councillor Wan, with Councillor Fotheringham substituting.
Thank you. I'll move on to declarations of interest and statements of transparency. Do we have any to declare today? No, thank you. Move on to item 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting on the 5th of December. Are those agreed? Agreed. And the minutes of the Appeals Subcommittee on the 13th of December. Thank you. Item 4 is the possible exclusion of public and press, and this relates to items 8 and 9 on the agenda. So we need to consider whether the public and press should be excluded during consideration of those items to avoid the disclosure of information which is exempt in terms of Part 1, Schedule 7A to the Local Government Scotland Act 1973. Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 5 is the Capital Monitoring General Fund Capital Programme 23-24, and I'll pass over to Mr Lorimer to introduce this.
Thank you, Convener, and good afternoon, members. Yeah, this is the latest monitoring position on our General Fund Capital Programme based on actuals to the end of November and a projection from there to the end of the financial year. No major issues, I don't think, to flag up within the report. Spend is holding up fairly well. There's an underspend projected at the minute of 1.3 million in net terms, but that is spent about 69% of the programme to date. Significant spend going through, the largest project being in relation to the replacement for Moneyfeith High School, which I understand is going well on site. So that's probably all I wanted to say by way of introduction, Convener, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ian. Any questions? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. Mr Lorimer, on page 13 of the report, so the combined papers on table 7, for infrastructure, environment, roads and transportation, other minor variances is listed as an £80,000 overspend. Could you just give us a bit more information on what that is and what the other minor variances are? Because I would say £80,000 is quite a substantial amount of money. So just a bit more clarification on that, please.
Through you, Convener. I suppose the detail of that, Councillor Gregg, is in the appendix to the report. I would need to go through each of those individual lines. It will be an amalgam of a number of different projects. 80,000 is a lot of money, but in the scheme of the council's capital budget and the scale of spend, so the budget for infrastructure and environment for the current year is something like. There's various bits to it, isn't there? Of course, yeah, it's over 12 million pounds. So it's not a significant variance in that sense. But the detail is in the appendix where all the individual projects are listed. I mean, I can following the meeting get a breakdown of that if that was helpful. But I'd have to go through that list of individual projects.
Thank you. Any further questions? No comments? Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Yeah, I just really wanted, I mean, Mr Lorimer has really said it, but I think the sort of forecast spend against the original budget targets, I think both on the general fund and the housing revenue account are both very good. I think they were well over 90%, which is a good result, and certainly thanks to officers for doing that. That's good. Just in terms of the question from Councillor Gregg, of course, the Capital Monitoring Group looks at that sort of issues every 6 weeks, once a cycle, and certainly we normally ask for, if there is overspends or underspends, we normally ask officers for details of that. So there was certainly nothing that I can recall flags an issue for me. As Mr Lorimer is suggesting, I suspect it's a number of issues that have been added together, but that is reviewed every 6 weeks.
Thank you. I don't see any further hands, so I'll move to recommendations. We're asked to review and scrutinise expenditure. Is that agreed? Thank you. Next is item 6, revenue monitoring 23-24 and renewal and repair fund position 23-24. And pass back to Mr. Lorimer.
Thanks again, Convener. Yeah, the revenue position for 23-24, a much improved position than the last report that I brought to members. I think it was in December, and we've explained in the report what the major reasons for that variance is. There are, as is outlined in the report, a number of areas that are overspending fairly significantly, and the reasons for that are outlined, but also a number of areas where we're underspent and projecting to be underspent. The most significant thing I think to highlight in this report is this is the first monitoring report of the year where we've been able to bring forward the full picture in terms of the impact of the various pay awards and conclusions around pay for financial year 23-24, including the totality of government funding, which is more than what we had budgeted for when we set the 23-24 budget. So a bit of a mixed picture, I would say, overall, Convener. We are projecting on an adjusted basis an overspend across the totality of the general fund of just over £800,000. We're still trying to bring that back into line with budget overall in terms of deferral of the non-essential spend, etc., etc. But the last time I brought a report, it was nearer 5 million, so it has turned around pretty significantly since then. So heading in the right direction, and if we can keep it that way towards the end of the financial year, that would be a good thing. Again, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, and clearly a very challenging financial situation at present. Do we have any questions? Councillor Meakin.
Just for clarity, and apologise if I'm looking at the wrong place, but in the recommendations it says, note at point 3, note the renewal and repair fund position as set out in 418. I can't seem to find 418. In mine it seems to stop at 417.
Thank you, Councillor. Again, I think you're right. That is the reference there. We must have deleted a paragraph somewhere and not renumbered. It is indeed 417, so we can make that adjustment in the minute if the committee are happy with that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Gall.
Thank you, Convener. It was just a quick question on page 34. 4.5, the graphics unit income being down. Is that due to a contract that's lost, or just a general shortfall? And is that department able to promote themselves to kind of increase income, or is the demand just not there right now?
Thanks, Councillor Gall. Yeah, this has been a bit of an issue for a few financial years. There's effectively a structural issue within the budget there that we've identified. Really a change in practice, I would say, where there's much less printing type work and digital work going through the unit. So it's not raising or not generating the same level of income. Now, most of that income was internal to the council. But it's not generating the same levels of income that in line with what we budgeted for. So there's a shortfall there, and it's one of those operations where there's an element of a fair element of fixed costs. So the income is not currently, and hasn't been actually for a couple of years now, covering those costs. That is something as we move to the new contractual arrangements that we will need to address. So yeah, that's what's going on in relation to that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Don't see any hands. Any comments? Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Yeah, it was just in relation to 4.16 under housing, and just wondered how kind of there's a suggestion that the picture is becoming better in terms of the housing account, and I just wondered how that picture is, you're managing to gauge that, because previously we've asked for figures in terms of loss of rents. and we've not been given those figures. So I just wondered how you are managing to measure and suggest that there is improvement in that area without those figures to hand.
Through you again, Convener. So the projection in this report, Councillor Speed, and thanks for the question, it covers the entirety of the housing revenue account expenditure position, and that includes, I think there is a budget for void rents within that. Now, it so happens that although there is a position there, overall there is a projected saving, largely off the back of lower borrowing costs and staff savings, I think, as is outlined within the appendix for housing. I'm just trying to find the page number here. It's at the very end, of course, isn't it? The last page. Yeah, it's page 52 of the combined papers. Now, there is a line within that appendix for rents and service charges. The void position will be reflected within that. So that is projected to be slightly better than budget overall, despite the position on voids. I don't know the specifics on voids. I would need to get some information from colleagues on that element specifically, which again I'm happy to do after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Yeah, it was just around the Angus Health and Social Care Partnership position, the risk sharing agreement. There are actually discussions ongoing around returning some funding to both the Council and NHS Tayside to support everyone's financial position. Thanks.
Thank you. That would be very welcome. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, I'll move to recommendations. We're asked to review and scrutinise the content, note the non-urgent expenditure and recruitment vacancies has been deferred, and note the renewal and repair fund position. Is that agreed? Thank you. Moving on to item 7, which relates to surplus properties, and I'll ask Mr Daly to present the report.
Thank you. This report seeks approval to declare 3 properties surplus to the requirements of Angus Council. Specifically, these are Moneyfeith Library on the High Street of Moneyfeith, the property known as the Tractor Shed at Commerce Street, Brechin, and thirdly, the former Access Office and Municipal Buildings in Brechin. The background and reasons for declaring these properties surplus are detailed in the report. Also, as detailed in the report, the Tractor Shed and the Municipal Buildings in Brechin do belong to the common good, and therefore the proposed future use and any disposal would be contained in a report that would be brought back to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on the report? Councillor Beattie.
Hi, thanks Mr Daly. Just a quick question. The municipal buildings in Brechin, they've appeared in papers last year a couple of times, one for spend on agile working and one for repairs. Can you tell me just exactly how much has actually been spent on the building? Because I think one was about 140,000 and the other one I think was like 56 or 59,000.
I don't know that off the top of my head, Councillor Beattie, but I could certainly consult with colleagues unless there's anybody knows. I'm joined with a colleague now who may have the answer. Yeah. This Gavin Balfour, Service Leader for Assets, hopefully might be able to give you a detail on this.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor Beattie. We haven't spent any of that on the building. The building was earmarked for the Agile programme, but we weren't going to spend that money until the decision was made to proceed with that. So no, none of the common good funds have yet been spent.
So what about the repairs, because there was dry rot in the building?
Yeah, if you recall, I think we had a conversation about that quite recently, so the go-ahead has been given for that work to proceed. We're just seeking tenders, and we should see that progress reasonably quickly.
Thank you very much, Gavin.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Speed.
Yep, thanks, Convener. I just wondered if there are any kind of mitigating kind of things in place just to help ensure that when, you know, if Montefieth Library was to be sold before, like the new premises were up and running for the library and access service, is there things in place to ensure that the residents of Montefieth aren't going to be left without those vital services?
Thanks for that, Councillor Speed. I do know that progress is going really well on the new community centre, and hopefully that won't be the case, but I'll pass over to Mr Daly to see if he's got a more specific answer.
Yeah, as detailed in the report, it's anticipated that the completion will be, I think it says towards the end of 2024, early 2025. And as the leader has just said, things are progressing well. We will market it with a view that the any entry would be at the appropriate time, taking into account the build programme for the new facility. So yeah, we take full cognizance of what you've said, Councillor Speed, and we would ensure the timing is done correctly if we were successful in terms of marketing of the property.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any comments? Councillor Fotheringham.
Thank you, Convener. No, I'm absolutely not delighted to see that the building for the current library is going to be put up for sale. However, it's better going to a good use. But I can remember in the 80s, I think, when Montefieth was under Dundee District Council at that time, where they proposed to close Montefieth Library. And there was a huge public outcry about it. But I think what we've agreed already, that the library is going to go into the new building, is going to ensure the long-term future of the library, and I'm pleased to see it. So well done. And I'll mention again, Jean Lee, former councillor Jean Lee, has done a huge power of work, and her team. But this will ensure the long-term future, in my view, of Montefieth Library. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fotheringham, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing the library operating in the new facility in the quite near future. Councillor Boyd.
Yes, I'd just like to thank the officers for making sure these balance of the disposal and the new building in Montefieth there, because we certainly don't want to go back to the situations of the tens of thousands of pounds that was spent on empty property relief with the for Loch Side. So it's good to see that lessons are learned there, and we're doing as much as we can to get that balance right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyd. And it's also quite reassuring to know that given the properties in Brecon are common good, there will be a consultation on their future use to make sure that the correct decisions being made for the future. Do we have any further comments? No. Can we move now to recommendations? And as detailed by Mr Daly, we're asked to agree the recommendations. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to item 8, which is the contract award for the provision and maintenance of an electronic care monitoring system. And I'll ask Mr. Oh, beg your pardon. We'll just.
John, could we stop the live stream, please?